Hello everyone, welcome to Selenium Roadmap Zero to Hero training journey. I'm your trainer Azeem Tariq, lead test architect at Xamaa Technologies. If you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe to Xamaa Learning YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming training adventures. So far, we have covered framework design and project structure. In Module 4, we are going to learn page object model concepts and its implementation, both for standard training and customized online one-on-one session. We will also analyze our code and refactor it by creating common reusable methods to make our test framework easy to maintain and scalable. Let's understand the fundamentals of page object model first. So what is page object model? Let's try to Google it and understand its definition. This is our application under test. Let's say, what is page object model in test automation, in automation testing? Let's see. Okay, so page object model, also known as POM, which we are using the term, is a design pattern in Selenium that creates an object repository for storing all web elements. It helps reduce code duplication and improves test case maintenance. If I see the picture view, you can see we have some pages, different pages, just like we created some home page, we create some other vehicle data pages, and then we utilize those objects in our test cases. And let's see how we utilized in our project in the basic framework code. Let me move to our Eclipse IDE. So in basic framework, we created few pages, and then if you remember, we created a home page and we had only one click data. We copied from our basic code. We had that in module 7 of basic training, and then in module 8 we basically created this framework, initial framework. And then we also did some vehicle data page and we copy pasted all the code from the basic. However, we created two methods. Okay, let's try to understand first what actually is the anatomy of WebDriver code. So that will help us that how a Selenium WebDriver statement which interacts with a web element has different components. This will help us to understand the importance and usability of a page object model. Let's take an example of this statement. For example, what I will do here, the first part is the driver which we declared in some part. If you remember, we declared in our container class, and the WebDriver is here. Okay, so this is our WebDriver. So it means the first part is our driver declaration. Okay, and then the next part is it is trying to find some using some of the WebDriver library. So it means the second part, which is a find element, is basically a WebDriver framework, and we can call it, it's a framework keyword library. And so it means we have a keyword called find element. We have many other keywords also. So it's more like a WebDriver framework keyword library. And the third part, which is by ID, so it's more like you can say what type of locator we can use. Type of locator. And then the next part is itself locator, which we identified on the page web element. And it's more like a locator. And then what is next? Next is the send key. Send key is kind of action because now we found the element. Once the element is identified, then what action we want to perform on that specific web element. So this is an action, which is another WebDriver framework. We can say keyword library. Okay, and the last part, which actually is some text, and this is the last part is some text. So which we can call is a test data. Okay, so imagine this one statement is a combination of many things, keywords, some actions, some declarations, some test data, and if we start and utilizing this kind of statements in everywhere of our test cases, then on some day, if we need to do some enhancement and need to change some page structure, then what will happen? Let's say the ID is changed. Then we need to find where in our test suite all these projects they have utilized it, and then we need to come back and fix them. However, using the page object model, what is the main object is we contain all these locators related to a specific page in a specific class. For example, if you see here, we created a homepage class, we created an insurance data class, we created a price options, then product data, code page, vehicle data, which we are using now. So it means what we want to do, we want to achieve, we using the page object model, we contain all the objects related to a single web page in one location, which we call a page class. And outside of the page class, we utilize only its defined methods. And what does it mean? We did that in our basic framework, although I did not explain at that place. If you see in our first test, which we created using the AAA methodology, arrange, act, and assert, we utilize one of the created method, which was set engine performance. So basically, in the test body, we did not call any of the WebDriver statement. Instead, we were calling our own methods, which we created inside of the vehicle data page. And so it means if that is the model, then anything related to the vehicle data page change happens, then we come to this class, modify it, and entire test suite will be updated. So overall, the page object model, what it does, you can say it promotes the code reusability, maintainability, and clarity in your test case. Think about it. This is your test case. Now you understand the flow of your test, that what it is doing. But if you have maybe tens of driver statements, then the actual test logic might be hidden and might not be very clear. And now basically this explains the complete context of it. Now, in a next step, what we do, we will create a home page, a page object. So we will complete all the objects related to the home page, which is our landing page. and we will complete it, and then I will fast forward and complete all the remaining pages, and you guys can complete that as a lab work, so this will save all our time. Let's recall what are the web elements on our home page, which during the basic module training we traced all the locators and we created that home page. Let's see, let me go to our application. So on the home page, there are 4 links. Although we are in this training, we basically will be using the truck tab only, but hypothetically, there are 4 tabs. So what we will be doing, we basically during the basic module, we found the locator names, and now I will be creating a home page object model using the page factory, Selenium page factory. Let's see how we are going to do that. And I will open a home page. This was the one function we created, but what we will do, we will not modify it at this moment because it is utilized in our test. So if we delete it, then we will have some error in our test. So we will create a page factory and then later we will modify it. So in page factory, we have find by, and we know that we utilized ID, and our ID was basically first was the nav automobile. I will copy nav automobile, and then it's a web element, and we can call it maybe automobile tab. Okay, and here we can import this. Yes, find by, yes. I want to import this library, and then I also want to import the web element library. Web element, yes. Okay, so we have so now in this structure, find by, we know we were using driver dot find elements, and now it's a page we are using find by from the Selenium support, and then the ID is the locator type, and this is the locator basically, the part which we identified during the basic module, and then it's a web element, and then we are naming it. So in that way, basically what we will do, we will create all the locators at the step 1, and then instead of calling them one by one, we will initialize them at once using the page factory. And let's see how it goes. Let me first do this, repeat this for all 4 objects. Let me copy paste so that we can do the same for truck. So the next is our truck, and we can say it's a truck tab. Maybe I can call it truck tab, and then the next element, and next, because they are 4, so I will call them 4. The first one is this, and then is the truck, and then next is the motorcycle. This is a motorcycle, and then last one is a camper, and I can call it a motorcycle tab, and then the last one as the camper tab. Okay, so all these 4 elements are defined, and then I will call this class constructor. So the constructor, you can do it by clicking Control space. So it will give you option to create the constructor, and once you have the constructor, in the constructor, basically I want to use a page factory, and then I can call page factory Selenium support. So instead of Selenium support, basically I want to call page factory. So let's see which, yes, this is the what I want to call. And once the page factory is there, then I can init elements, and all my elements would be like, let's say in elements, and my driver is already declared, and then I want to do this in my local class only. So it means this single statement, basically what it will do, this is a constructor, and whenever the home page object created, it will initialize, it will call the page factory, and it will initialize all my web elements at once. So then we can call them whenever they are needed. And then the next step comes that now we want to click them. Now you see that we can refactor right away the truck tab. Here we were using driver element and all this statement. Now what we can do, we can simply call truck tab, which is our web element dot click. Here you go. So we no more need to explicitly call all those statements. So our code will become neat and clean. And so this would be more like out of the class, we will be utilizing this kind of function that click truck tab, which is a meaningful, which has some kind of clarity. And inside the class, we will be handling all those web elements that will make our code not only reusable, but it's clean and maintainable, because now all these elements always stay here, and we can anytime we can modify if it's needed. Then so now we need to create a 4 click methods, and every click method would be handling each tab. At the moment in this class, because we will only be utilizing truck tabs, I will be doing that and then fast forward and do the remaining of the work. I created page object classes for all application pages, which we are going to utilize to develop test suite. And now let's analyze and refactor some of the common functionality areas and transform them into reusable components. Let's start with home page. I open home page class. Top section of this class contains all the web element declarations. And you might have noticed that every web element has the find by annotation, which will be utilized by page factory to initialize these web elements. So, and the next is the constructor of this class, which contains the page factory, which if we can see, it is initializing using this web driver instance. It's actually initializing all the web elements. Next is a list of methods we created to click on various tabs. This is for clicking on a truck tab, clicking on motorcycle tab, clicking on automobile tab, clicking on, so all these click functions we created. So one of the commonly used functionality in this class is the WebDriver's action click. So we are calling again and again this click function. Imagine clicking on web elements without ensuring that the page is fully loaded or that the elements are in clickable state. So this kind of scenario may result in issues, especially when the action is triggered before the page was completely loaded, or if the element was not clickable state. In such situations, attempting to click on an element will lead to an exception. More interestingly, if such functionality is developed, our test might pass at times and fail at other times without any specific reason. In testing terms, we refer to these tests as flaky tests. Let's see, how can we improve this behavior? Instead of directly using WebDriver's click function, I'm going to create my own click method in which we will consider including some weights and some conditional specification to ensure that some conditions are considered before actually performing the click action of the WebDriver. Let's see. What I want to do, I want to add my own method. Let's see if I say okay, I public void click method I want to add, and okay, so this is my own method now. And what I want to do, I want to add some functionality. And what is that functionality? Let's say I will start with WebDriver weight, and WebDriver weight type variable, let's say call it weight, and then I say okay, then I initialize it with WebDriver weight, and yeah, driver instance pass the driver instance, and the next is I want to pass some duration, like maybe in seconds, yeah, maybe 10 seconds. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so okay, I created a variable, and now with this variable, basically what I'm doing now, I created a weight variable, and which is associated to WebDriver weight, and is configured to wait for a maximum 10 seconds. This means it will repeatedly check for a specific condition. And where is that condition? And what I will do, I will say wait dot until. Okay, so this is my condition now. So what I want to do now is I want to add a condition, and that condition I can call some expected condition. Expected conditions. Let's see, expected conditions. Yeah, I want to call the expected conditions dot, what are the options? Let's say I want to play with element. Let's say, is there any option for clickable? Let me see. clickable. Here you go. So element to be clickable. I will use the element to be clickable, and because we are using web element, so I would call the web element. So we have both functions. Uh, in the library, we have a clickable by element, clickable by some locator ID, and I will start with web element, then we'll replicate with the locator as well. So in that way, basically, our click method will be more robust and it can be utilized for any situations. Let's start with condition clickable, and now it says, okay, which web element you want to pass. And let's say, because we are clicking truck tab, and I say, okay, pass to truck tab, and once it's there, then I would say, okay, wait for that, and then what you do, then you click on it. So now, interestingly, we have our own method which still do the same click functionality, but now it has some embedded wait time and the conditional condition, the clickable condition check also. But now think, if we want to do the same action for other three web elements, we need to repeat it. And repeating of code is more like, in coding term, we call it a code smells, because we are just copy pasting the same code again and again. So we want to, instead, we want to parameterize it. Let's say, how can we parameterize it? What I can do is I can web element. So instead of that, if I call web element and then pass that web element here. So now this method became a generic method. What it does, it takes a web element and then it initializes, it creates a wait, and then it provides the condition and wait for the condition, and once that condition is achieved, then it actually click on that web element. And now if I come here and now think what we are doing a web element click, and so instead of doing that click, if I call my own click, and in that click I pass this web element, basically now we don't need this web driver click functionality. So now we have our own click method which takes a web element. If you see, I double clicked on it and it is saying, yeah, you're using now this method, and if I pass this, now I can use the same method again and again just for any web element. So it means we have now this reusable function. And if I come to this method, and instead of this, if I just pass a motorcycle tab, I delete that. Now I don't need to even comment it. And the next, if I come here, I copy paste here, and then motorcycle tab, and this was automobile tab. Automobile tab function is this. Let's say pass the automobile, and this is done. And then the next is camper tab, and camper tab, if I pass this web element, so all our functionality is complete, which means now we have a click method which we can utilize in our this class. Think about the other classes. We have the click functionality because on each and every page, we need to go, let me launch, let me launch our application under test, which is this. This is my landing page where I'm clicking on these 4 tabs, and once I click on the truck tab, then we have these 5 tabs. And on every page, although I load my data, but at the end I click on the next button, and if I click here, then I have 2 buttons, next and previous, and some other clicks, like I can click on it, so it means click function is more like a common for across all these 5 tabs functionality, and we might be utilizing it in some other areas also. So if that is the case, then what we need to do? So instead, we keep it in our this class, which is a home page class at this moment. What I will do, I will go to my common area where we have driver and object container at this moment. I will create another class, which is, let's say, common class. And in this common class, if I copy paste the complete functionality from here, so that means go to common class and copy paste here. So we have now, but it will complain about driver because it's not extending driver at this moment. If we extend driver, then actually it's happy. So in our common class, maybe we can call, yeah, common is okay, or yeah, maybe we can call common utilities, maybe. Let's rename it common, maybe common utils, maybe. So we have a common utilities class where we create all our common functionalities, and this is our first common method which we created, and I would, let's say, call it common method to click web element. Okay, so if I do that, and now if I come to my homepage class and comment this, because now we have created that, now all these methods, because we actually created, and so they're complaining. So it means now a common class is not visible here. So what we need to do, so we can handle it in multiple ways, but what we will do, we will create a common class object in our home page, and then we can utilize it. Okay, so what I will do, I will go on the top of the class, and because I don't want to use it again and again, only within this class I want to keep it, so I will say, let's say, private common utils, which I want to add, and that is my common. Okay, so I created a common variable of common util class, which common util we have that, and once I did that, it actually automatically added my common util also in the import area. And now we also need to initialize. So it means when we need to initialize, before we do any action with the driver. So it means I come to its constructor and say common is equal to new, and please initialize it. Okay, so whenever the constructor of this class will be called, what will happen? It will initialize common. And once the common is initialized, so all these methods, what they need a common dot before the method call. So it means we need the object of that class, so we can call that commonly. Okay. Okay. So what we did, we created a common click method we utilize in this home page. But then we thought, no, the scope of that click functionality is beyond the home page. So we moved that click method into our common utility class. Let's save it. And then now we are by using an object reference of common util class. And which means now this util class can be called in any of my uh, these mm, page classes, and then we can use this functionality, and we will develop more functionalities as well, but for now we have this click reusable functionality. Now I will use this common click method for all object classes. I will fast forward it and complete it, and you guys can complete as lab work. Let's analyze vehicle data class to identify more common functionalities so we can transform them into reusable methods, just like we did for click functionality. Let me open vehicle data page class and uh, let's see the trend. So at the top part, we have the newly created page object model, where at the bottom of this class, we still have the basic code available. And let's see, we are sending some keys. So send key, let's see, send key is a very common functionality which we are using, and let's transform this method, create our own sendKey method in the same way we see its expected condition, if it's a clickable or it's a interactable, and then we create some weight also. I will create public void sendKeys, my own method. Okay. Okay, so just like we did for WebDriver wait and wait, and now we know it's a new WebDriver wait, and then driver remain as is. Then we want to pass maybe 10 seconds, just like we did for collect functionality. Duration dot seconds, maybe 10 seconds. Okay, so once we have that, then we can utilize wait until, and in the click functionality we called expected conditions and dot clickable, yeah, and the web element, just like we did. And we can call any web element here, and once the element is there, then Oh, uh, some, let's say if I call this is my web element, and if I call this web element here, then it will not complain, and then we can send keys and some text. Okay, we created a structure, and with this structure, and now we have some wait time and some condition is also checked. And okay, so we have our custom send key message where we can pass this web element, we can parameterize it so it can be reused for all other areas also. Let's say web element, and then some string value. So it means this element would be our element, and the value which we want to pass would be our value. So in that way, it's more like standardized. Now we have value will go here, and element is this. So in that way, basically, it's more like our common function, and this we can utilize for all the fields where we need to pass some data. And in the same way, I will copy it from here, rather I will cut it from here and move it to our common util class, because now we have a structure here and we know that how to use it. And we have a send key method of our own created, which basically not interact with web element, but it waits and see if the element is able to respond, and then only it will be passing that specific value. And this method we can utilize everywhere in our classes. So what we need to do, we have already created a common method because we initialized it, and we clicked function we have utilized. And now for individual method, for example, if I come here and let's say I need to pass this data, and instead of this data, if I try to use my own sendKeys method, and we know that this is a method, and what it says, oh no, because we need to use a common util object first, then it will only give us, okay, it says what web element you want to utilize for that. For example, I want to pass engine performance web element. Oh no. So this is slightly a different situation. So now we are not, you remember during the click function, I was saying that we would be creating another replica of that function, which can be utilized with the locator. So in most of the cases here, it's not the web element, but it's a locator. So what I will do, I will go to common functionalities area and copy paste. So we will do the method overloading, and I will copy paste here. So instead of web element, I will say buy now here. So now this buy would give me the strength that, okay, I can utilize it, and I need to some import buy, yep, import it. Okay, here you go. So now we have a same send key method, but with the two overloading. It can also accept web element. It can also accept a locator type also. Let's save it here and move back here and see if that complaints goes away or not. And so now what we need to do say by ID and then it's engine performance, which is here, and then the value is in string. Okay, so our own method, sendKey method, is working, which basically waits for the appropriate condition, then only it passes the value. So now we will avoid using directly the sendKey method because it might cause some exception in our test project. So we will what I will do, I will basically uh, copy paste the same functionality and I will do the fast forward and implement the similar functionality for all my text field where I'm passing this data